I think we all kind of jumped the gun a little bit because the trailer was so bad.
You're pining for a daddy you didn't even know.
In comparison to what I was expecting from the trailer and also the internet's reaction to the trailer, it honestly was great. It was much better than I was expecting. Kaede Tefantes. Hello everyone, my name is Elizabeth. I have a master's in classics from Oxford, and today I'm going to be talking about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey, and we're going to be answering one simple question. Should you go and see it in theaters? And honestly, I can answer that question for you right now. If you are somebody who enjoys retellings, or you really like ancient history, you like Greek mythology, or you just like the work of Christopher Nolan, I would say it's a really interesting film with a lot of really great cinematography, and it's worth your time for sure. If you are hoping that it's going to be award-winning quality cinematography and acting and dialogue that's going to move you to tears, for me it wasn't that, so I don't really feel like it's going to deliver on that front. So this movie is 3 hours long, and honestly, it felt like a little bit of an odyssey in and of itself. I walked into that theater at 6 p.m. and I did not walk out until the dot of 9 p.m. And by that point, I felt much like Odysseus, as if I had aged 20 years. Obviously, it's only in theaters right now, so I can't really like splice footage into this video. So I'm just gonna like probably film an entirely different video when I'm able to actually splice the footage and like talk more about accuracy and that kind of thing. So this is not gonna be a how accurate is it video. So before I get started, there are gonna be like minor spoilers in this video. I'm not gonna do any like big spoilers, but just if you're really serious about spoilers, like probably don't watch this video. So now just some of my general thoughts about it as a classicist and also as someone who studies storytelling. Take it with a grain of salt. This is just my personal opinion. I'm gonna start with things that I liked and then move into things that I didn't like, and I will timestamp that down below. I felt like it was in general very faithful to the narrative of the Odyssey. Again, in general, I felt like there weren't any like huge kind of artistic license type changes that were made, and in that way it did feel a heck of a lot more kind of authentic to the original narrative in terms of like the on paper type stuff, in comparison to, for example, Epic the Musical, which I did like for other reasons, and I did think was kind of more in the spirit of the Odyssey for different reasons, but see my other video on that. I'll link it up here, I guess. From an accuracy perspective, I felt like the attention to detail was pretty great. It's really hard to make an immersive film about the Bronze Age because we have so little evidence from that period, so we kind of barely even know what people's clothes looked like. So given that, I felt like the details were pretty good. He definitely took a lot of creative license with the costuming as well, but personally, I kind of liked that. I thought it was like fresh and new. So for example, the Trojans are depicted all in white, which I thought was kind of an interesting commentary because it almost makes them seem like they're the good guys, which seemed like it was kind of a theme in the film. Also, there was a scene where they go into a temple of Athena and there's a giant statue of Athena, and she looks so much like an authentic archaic period corre statue. I saw that and I was like, yes, like that's so good, even though it's a slightly later period than the Bronze Age, but it just still was like such a great detail. Other details though, I kind of wasn't as impressed with. Like Penelope is supposed to be this amazing weaver, and then you see her tapestry and it's like kind of mid. It's just like kind of white with like a little meander on the side and like something in the middle, and I feel like it would have been like way more intricate than that, especially if she's like trying to get people to like believe that she's taking so long on this thing. She's been doing it for like 10 years. I felt like the architecture was in general pretty authentic as well, mostly because they didn't use a pediment roof. So the pediment roof is like the little triangular one that you see on Greek temples. That was invented in, I want to say, the 6th century BC. So that would be around 500-ish years after the Trojan War. So I liked that the buildings were a little bit more fitting to the Bronze Age period. So I want to talk about the diversity of the cast lineup. I suspect that this might be a slightly divisive subject, so please know that I'm trying to approach it with every respect and openness that I possibly can. But if you do have like different thoughts, feelings, comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I felt like I, in general, was impressed with the diversity of the cast. Do I think that they could have done slightly better in terms of representation? Like, yes, mostly just because all of the actors of color are kind of in fairly minor, not minor roles, but they're in like secondary roles. Like I did kind of feel like they were almost slightly in the background, and kind of the white characters were a little bit in the foreground. Oh, also, editor Elizabeth here. I can't believe I forgot to talk about this. I just feel like there should have been more Mediterraneans in it. There should have been more Italians, there should have been more Greek people, like, as in not American actors who have ethnicity from that region, although that would be great, but like actual actors whose native language, for example, maybe is Greek and maybe grew up in Greece or Italy or Turkey or even North Africa or the Middle East, what have you. I just felt like, especially with like Greece, there should have been more Greek people in this film. I know there were a couple, and there was one guy actually speaking Greek at one point, but there could have been more. Like, you could have cast a Greek actor as Odysseus instead of Matt Damon. Not that Matt Damon wasn't fantastic, because his acting was great, but I thought that a lot of the creative license that was taken, he's pretty faithful to the original Odyssey while also taking creative license in a way that doesn't feel like it's disrupting the original, in my personal opinion. Like, for example, in the actual Odyssey, when they come to the island of the Laestrygonians, the first person that they encounter is not an adult. It's a maiden who is going to get water from a stream. And in Nolan's Odyssey, also the first Laestrygonian that they encounter is a child. So it's quite different from the original, but a lot of the kind of core details like that are the same, and I appreciated that. Okay, so now things that I didn't like about it. My main thing is that, like the film Troy, they have more or less completely edited the gods out of the narrative. I don't understand why live action blockbuster films have to do this. I mean, the whole Odyssey opens with a conversation between the gods, right? So all of that was kind of edited out, which for me felt kind of jarring. The relationship between Athena and Telemachus was totally edited out and not explored at all. They've kind of separated the characters of Athena and Mentor, where in the original Odyssey, Athena actually makes herself look like Mentor and appears to Telemachus as, I guess, his father's friend, Mentor. Odysseus interacts several times with Hermes in the original Odyssey, and Hermes is not in Nolan's Odyssey at all. Huge loss. Some of you know Hermes is my favorite god, so I get a little bit offended when people edit him out of things. Especially because Odysseus and Hermes are not only related, I think, but they share a lot of characteristics, because Hermes is like the trickster, right? And Odysseus is always playing tricks, kind of like Athena is very good with her mind and very clever, and so is Odysseus. So, you know, when people kind of really lean on the Odysseus-Athena thing and then they ignore the like Odysseus-Hermes thing, I'm kind of like, like, why would you not just do both? So yeah, that was my main thing. I am someone who likes to write about the gods and draw the gods and read retellings that are mostly about the gods, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's just my personal opinion, but I wish there were more gods in it. So the dialogue and the acting.
Tell me what you remember.
We won the war. This is a household waiting for master.
Who's looking after your wife and son?
I felt like the dialogue was okay. I felt like every maybe 10 lines that they wanted to really be a zinger, maybe 2 or 3 of them were like actually a zinger, which was great because you have a lot of zinger lines in there, but there are also a lot of lines that were intended to hit a lot harder than, for me personally, than they actually hit.
Bringing it all.
Obviously, hugely talented actors in this narrative. No shade to any of them whatsoever. I thought that in general it was really stellar. I did think, though, kind of in combination with the script that these actors were given, the delivery slightly left something to be desired for me. I wasn't 100% buying that these are real people and this is a real narrative. Like, I was very aware that, like, I'm sitting in a theater right now.
Ithaca's king is coming back.
No, he's not.
For that reason, I didn't really feel all that emotionally invested in it. I didn't feel like I really cared about the characters because they a little bit didn't feel real to me. But that's kind of a huge nitpick. Yeah, I felt like it was all right. I also missed a lot of the dialogue just because it went by so quickly and I felt like I couldn't hear it clearly. I don't know if I'm just maybe deaf or something, or I'm used to maybe watching things with headphones in or like in another language where there are subtitles, but I just kind of missed a lot of it. I also spent about 90% of the film thinking that Eumaeus the swineherd was Laertes, who's Odysseus' father, because they, I think, edited Laertes out of the film. So this whole time I'm like, oh, he's an old man, he's got a dog, it's definitely Laertes. Nope, I'm pretty sure it was Eumaeus this whole time. Okay, so they edited out that Odysseus sleeps with Circe, just like Jorge Rivera Herranz does in Epic the Musical, by the way, which I discuss in my other video about that. That, to me, is a little odd because, like many people do, Nolan's Odyssey is trying to portray Odysseus as kind of a morally gray character. So why would you not just tell the truth about Odysseus and the fact that he cheats on his wife multiple times, and also outside of the narrative of the Odyssey, he then comes home and then in one version of the story goes on to shack up with a random foreign queen and have a second family. So he's not this kind of like, oh, I love Penelope so much, I'm so faithful to her. That's not the authentic Odysseus, in my personal opinion. Yeah, the whole Circe episode, that was actually my least favorite part of the film. The actress who played Circe was fantastic, but I did kind of feel like the script was weird. They say that she turned her sister into a crow at one point, and I'm like, bro, like Pasiphae is a goddess and she's off on Crete married to a Cretan king. Like, she's definitely not like been turned into a crow. Like, she's a goddess herself. It was weird. I felt like the way, I won't spoil it, but the way that Circe turns her men into pigs physically, it wasn't like a she snaps her fingers and they turn into pigs kind of thing. Like, it was a very slow process that felt like something out of a horror movie, and it felt a little bit like kind of jarring in that way. I was kind of like, oh, I didn't really sign up for this. He also, in Nolan's Odyssey, just like goes to see Circe and then leaves the same day. In the real Odyssey, he stays on her island for a year because he wants to, basically. He can leave if he wants. Okay, so this is where maybe some people are going to disagree with me on this. I felt like the tone of the film was fairly dark. A lot of the landscapes are very bleak. You're constantly seeing Odysseus's men being killed in this very kind of gruesome way. There's this constant kind of feeling of dread. It's sort of a little bit like Interstellar, where it's just everyone is not in a great situation, and that sort of just continues for the whole film, and things keep kind of getting worse and worse. So maybe that's kind of a Nolan thing. And clearly that was his vision for the film, so more power to him. I did kind of feel like most Greek mythology, and certainly the Odyssey, has this kind of like whimsical sense of sort of joy in the fantasy of it. Like, oh, how many heads did this monster have? And like all this kind of thing. And I did kind of feel like that sort of like joy in the strangeness of everything and the sort of magic and everything was kind of lost in translation, both in terms of like the sort of tone of the film and also in terms of the fact that they edited the gods out for sure, but they also kind of, this is a little bit of a spoiler, so skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. They are implying that a lot of the fantastical elements that are in the film are being hallucinated by Odysseus, and that it's kind of all in his head. So that part I wasn't crazy about, because I did kind of feel like it sort of lost touch with maybe the spirit of epic storytelling, where you've got a rhapsode who's, like telling this really exciting story to everyone, and they're all kind of like on the edge of their seat and like, oh, it's so like fantastic and weird. And I felt like that's kind of the spirit of it, and I felt like that sort of got lost a little bit. In terms of an accessibility perspective, I felt like if I didn't have a degree in classics and I didn't know anything about Greek mythology, or I didn't know very much about Greek mythology, I'd be a little confused, and I kind of wouldn't really be able to sort of access it and like follow what was going on. I think that like somebody like, let's say, Rick Riordan kind of does this really well, in that it is really accessible to people who maybe aren't as familiar with kind of the entire pantheon, for example, or kind of like who these various people are. So I went to see this with my cousin, who is an archaeologist and is interested in the Bronze Age, and he told me his least favorite thing about the film was at the very end, Odysseus has this line where he says something like, it's the collapse of our Bronze Age, and it's basically like the whole film is trying to graft the Bronze Age collapse, which is a historical event, onto the Trojan War, as if the Trojan War kind of somehow like literally caused the decline in population that was the Bronze Age collapse. So those are my main thoughts. In general, as I said, I really liked it. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me in the comments. I would love to know how you guys felt about the Odyssey, but also kind of, what do you like in a retelling? What do you not like in a retelling? Does anything in retellings like really, really make you mad? Or is there anything that you're just like, yes, this is amazing? How do you feel about creative license? Do you feel like more is better? Do you feel like it's really problematic to use creative license with ancient narratives. As you guys know, personally, I really like creative license. I don't think there's anything wrong with it until it kind of reaches a point where it's like really kind of missing the spirit of the thing. That's it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I make comics and illustrations over on my Instagram and TikTok, so if you like art about Greek mythology and or retellings, go check me out over there. I am writing a retelling at the moment, but it's very much in the draft stages, so I can't say too much about it right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be posting a longer video about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey in the future, so stay tuned for that. Bye!